For each of us, those goals are a little bit different. There's going to be same, right? There's going to be some commonalities, but there's going to be a lot of differences, isn't there? Each of us are in different businesses at different stages and progression of our business. And we need to be able to understand, well, whilst we have those commonalities, we can actually then draw it together to see what we can do about applying it within our business. Did you notice there that everything we talked about was stuff that is going to require you to work on the business and on yourself? True? True. So whether we're talking marketing, staff, increasing your business by a nice specific percentage, I love that. Specific, measurable, achievable, results driven and time bound. You ticked all the boxes there, Manny. So if you've got a real good clarity around your goals, you're going to have to make some time to make it happen. Who here is sitting around their business currently at the moment with their feet up on the desk wondering what they're going to do next? Anybody? No. Most of us are rather busy people. And before I mention busy being busy or busy being productive. And the key component here is busy being productive. True? Because we can all be busy. Yeah? And I'm about to share something with you that I was a little bit hesitant for. It was my birthday on Wednesday. Many of you know that. Thank you. And I don't mention it for that reason, but I sat there and I got up in the morning and all these Facebook messages started to appear. And I thought to myself, you know what, I'm going to make a personal effort to say thank you. Grant saw, what did we get up to by lunchtime? We're up to about almost 200 or something. And I thought, I'm going to spend some time and I'm going to make a personal effort to say thank you to everybody who said thank you to me on Facebook. And the SMSs, and the emails, and the messages. I got to about 10 o'clock and realised that I had blown an hour and a half of my time. An hour and a half of my time. So what did I do? I delegated to my PA, yes. Why? Why? Because my time is valuable, and anybody who cares about me is going to understand that my time is valuable. Hayden?
I think it comes down to it was important, but it wasn't critical or essential. So it's a question of working out which important things are really, really important.
Oh, it's almost like I paid you for a segue. Very nice. What I'd like everyone to do is to draw a little cross on their sheet. Some of you may have seen this before. Draw a little cross. Okay, and one of those lines, which I usually have as the horizontal line, I'd like you to put it down right next to it, time. Yep. So, wherever you like. Just anywhere on the actual line itself. On the horizontal line. Time or urgency. Or urgency. And on the vertical line, I want you to put on there importance. Okay? So whenever I do something, and for most of you who've gotten to know me for a while, and those I've gotten to know personally understand that I am actually very, very jealous with my time, and I balance everything against those two things. How urgent is something and how important is something? So, if I was to look in that bottom left-hand box, as it were, that little space, that would be a space that I would look at as something as being not urgent and not important. Okay? If you'd like to write that in that little space there. That's also known when we have our time target situation. For those of you who haven't seen that, we actually run a specific session on time management, which goes a lot deeper than what we'll be covering today. And that's what we usually call distraction. Then you've got other things which are urgent and not important. Can anybody guess where that might sit on the matrix? Yeah, bottom right. And that's commonly known. Sorry? It's urgent but not important.
How can something be urgent but not important?
Okay, that's a good question. I'll come back to that if that's okay. Urgent but not important, we call that delusion. Okay. Then we have something else which is important but not urgent, which is top right. And that's our zone time. Do I have a cross in front of me? I'll let you choose which one it goes into from your looking at it, which is called zone. And the other one, which is important and urgent, and that's known as demand. Now, if we look at everything in those 4 simple boxes, did I mention earlier that I like to keep things really, really simple? What are some good examples of things that are not urgent and not important? Facebook can be put into that category. It's not necessarily there. What are some of the other things that we do to sabotage our day with stuff that's just rubbish? Which can be Facebook. We'll get off Facebook for a minute. Hayden?
Reading all the crap emails you get sent through to you.
Can be. Yeah, in fact, that's a big part of it. Who here gets more than 20 emails a day? Keep your hand up if it's more than 40, 60, 80, 100, 150 sometimes, yeah? What do you reckon is the first key to run out of my keyboard? The delete key. And unsubscribe is my favourite word. All right, so there are a number of things that I subscribe to that are important to me, but they're not that important. They just flood into the inbox and I'll worry about it. There's other stuff that is very important to me. How do I know it until I've looked at it? I don't. But who here has got a sound that occurs when an email hits your inbox? Go on, hold your hand up. Yep. So what happens? We have this wonderful Pavlovian response and we start drooling and we go, somebody wants to talk to me. I better check my emails. And you stop what you're doing and check your emails. Horrible. Now I'll give you some examples. I was working with a client a few years ago, and one of the big things is he always got to work early. Always, 30 minutes before the rest of his team. So he could sit down, have 2 cups of coffee, 4 cigarettes and read the paper. Do you reckon that that's important or urgent? With assessment to his business? No. So what was he doing? He was allowing these distractions, and in fact it probably fell under delusion as well, that that's the way he started the day. But how do you think that started with his team? When they turned up to start work and he was out the back having a cup of coffee and a cigarette, waiting for them to get his business started. Do you think they felt motivated? No. So, delusion. Delusion is quite often the things that we think that we have to do that no one else can do. And for those of us who are management enthusiasts, this includes pretty much everything. Right? No one else can do this better than me. Margaret, we were talking about this the other day, not with relation to you, but yes. These are the things that we can't let go of. This could be, well, I like to take the mail down to the postie. I'm the one who has to do the banking.
It's like a ritual,
Yeah, it's a habit, but it's not a good habit. Right? Habits are awesome when they're actually adding value to your life or your business. But habits just for the sake of habit isn't really helpful for anybody, is it? So that's the sort of thing I was talking about there. The other thing is phones, wonderful things. Let me apologise and inform you in advance that if you call me on my mobile, you are unlikely to get me because my phone is permanently diverted to my office where the girls answer the phone. Why? Because I recently recognised that is that when the phone rings, is it urgent? Yeah, of course it's urgent. Why? Because the bloody thing's ringing. Is it important? Possibly. How many non-important calls was I taking? Hey honey, can you pick up some bread and milk on the way home? Important, sure, but it's not urgent. But not urgent. Hey, my wife's going to be watching this video, so of course anything she says is important to me. However, what we've discussed is a very simple system that if she needs something that's not both urgent and important, seriously, and unless something's wrong with the kids or the house is burning down or something that I need to get involved with immediately, just send me an SMS, shoot me an email. Why? Because I've got certain times in the day in my diary when I check my emails. Why? Certain times and only certain brackets. If I don't finish reading my emails in that amount of time, what happens to the rest of the emails that are in there? Gets deleted. Or I wait until the next time I have to catch up the second time in that day to be able to act on those emails. What does that force me to do? It forces me to look at what's the most urgent, most important thing. So if I get something from, I don't know, I'm not even talking Viagra now. I'm talking about you get something in your inbox that's from a newsletter that you like to read, but I've got an email from a client. Which one's going to be most urgent, most important? Sorry, what was that? Yeah, say it with a bit of conviction. So the reality is, what does that force me to do? Take care of the things that I need to look after, the important things. And the other stuff waits. And I've got folders with hundreds of emails that I'll get to one day. But how often do we allow our days to get sucked up like that? When we talk about demand, the stuff that's both urgent and important, what do I mean by that? There's some people here in the room that should know answers to this. What do you reckon, Mr. Jennings? I'm going to pick on you since you've been so quiet over there. Demand would be... Yes! The simple reference to it is that's the stuff that makes you money. The doing of your business. Right, but until now I've had to wade through two different areas to cut out the rubbish, to get through the noise, to the stuff that makes me dough. Is there anybody here who's not in business to make money? Fair and equitable profit. Oh, thank goodness no one stuck their hand up. Okay, so who'd like to make more money? Right. Big part, find out delusion and distraction and get rid of some of it. And I've got some really easy formulas in here with A, B, C, D and E. In the way that you actually look at it, the way you prioritise those things. The stuff that every single one of you talked about requires the other one. The stuff that's not urgent but important. The stuff that requires us to work on our business. But because there's no urgency attached to it, what do we tend to do with it? Put it off. What are some other things in our lives and our business that we need to focus on that are not urgent but important? Tip, we've got a personal training studio sitting over here talking about health. Our health might be a good one. If I'm standing here today and I'm feeling pretty good, is my health important? Yes. Is it urgent? No. What happens if I had a stroke? What's happened to the urgency of my health? Change a little bit. When's the best time to work on that? When I've had one or when I haven't? Now would be a good start. I can say that now that I'm being congruent. But that's the sort of thing, working on our business, making that time. I always suggest to people, if you could put aside 3 to 5 hours a week to work on your business will flourish. Am I talking about 3 to 5 hours a day? No. How many days in the week have we got? Yeah, how many hours in each of those days? 24. So I'm not even asking you to take more than 1 hour out of each day to work on your business. Now, if business is busy and you've got lots of commitments, what's a really good way of actually finding time?
Not sleeping.
Yeah. I kid you not. I kid you not. We are in a tough gig, right? If you don't make dough, what's going to happen to you and your business, your home and your family? Down the gurgler. Can I put up with an hour's less sleep at either end of the day to make sure that doesn't occur? Yeah, and yet we don't take a really simple discipline and do what we have to do. You know, I hear so many speakers who talk about, yes, it's all about life-work balance, and I absolutely agree, and today is one of the most important things that we're going to cover around life-work balance.
You'll answer less sleep.
Sorry?
So that was the real answer, Leslie.
Yeah, sometimes it can be. Sometimes it can be. It's. I'm gobsmacked. I'm looking around the room at the moment, and I know someone who should be here, who will take time off to go and pick his kids up from school, which is freaking awesome. I enjoy the same freedom at times myself, but complains he doesn't have enough time to get his business planning done, or to put together a marketing plan, or to make an extra few phone calls to his customers, or to sit down and sit with his accountant and review his financials. Priorities. So what I want you to do is the next exercise, and I'll give you a little bit extra time, is draw another blank cross, mark it up exactly the same way, and I want you to look at the most common activities that you are doing right now that are inside each of those 4 categories. And I'll give you 60 seconds per, because I value your time. And actually, that's a good question. For those who haven't done time management with me before, why do I give you time periods for these activities? Concentrate, we've got focus. What else?
You need to actually meet the deadline.
Yes. Yes, we've set ourselves a boundary because we will take the time that we allocate. If you don't allocate time, you are going to take as much time as it takes. When you force yourself to focus, what happens? You focus, you get stuck into it, you get in, you get out, and you're done. So, if it's a minute and a half per quadrant, that'll give you 6 minutes, starting now to write down the things in each of those 4 quadrants that are currently filling up your day. Successful people will usually invest money to save time. Unsuccessful people will generally spend money to spend time to save money. Get it right the other way around. Right? Because we can't make more time, can we? So when we look at stuff, before we move on to the next exercise, this is something I don't want you to share. So maybe find another page you can write it down, because this is your information. What I'd like you to do is write down 2 numbers. The first number you write down is how much do you pay yourself on an average per week?
0. That was easy.
Awesome. Yeah, so write that first number down. This is only for you. Then what I want you to do is to write down how many hours that you spend working in and on your business. And then I want you to divide how much you pay yourself by those hours and determine what your hourly rate is.
Negative, minus.
Everyone's different, Nick. So do me a favour, write it down. So in other words, if I was paying, and I'll just keep simple numbers here, if I was paying myself $2,000 a week and I was working 40 hours a week, I would be paying myself how much per hour? $50 an hour, approximately. Less taxes and, yes, everything else. So if we have a look at that, that's your number. I don't want you to share with anybody else. How many here, the worst I've seen, without it being a startup, the worst I've seen for an established business was somebody who was paying themselves $3.26 an hour. Now, if you have an employee, aka a team member, are you legally allowed to pay somebody? This is for you to answer for yourself. Are you legally allowed to pay somebody else what you're currently paying yourself in your business? Here's 2 other numbers I want you to think about. If you are doing what you do well, that generates your revenue for within your business, how much should you be earning on an hourly rate? If you were running things well, how much should you be earning and paying yourself? Hayden?
Paying yourself by the hour is a bit of a misnomer because you're
No, it's just for the point of the exercise.
because you're building equity as a side issue.
You would hope to, but I've seen people who have tried to sell a business that they can't. that they would need to pay me to take it off their hands, and pay me handsomely to consider taking it off their hands. So that's the second question. So every time that I look at doing something, one of my questions is, if I'm my worth to myself in my business, if my business is operating well, is X. Can I outsource or delegate that to somebody else who costs me less than X? Because what does that allow me to do? Do what I do well. Jason.
I got a bit of a aha moment, maybe just get some clarity. So, you know, we've got some people that may be starting the business and the hourly rate may be $4 an hour, right?
Less.
Or less. And then you've got some people that are at $50 an hour as we used in that example. So at what point do you outsource? Do you outsource, if your rate's $4 and the Philippine person's $7,
Good example. Yep. It makes sense. Look, I think this is where it comes down to affordability as well, because you can't spend money on things that you don't have the money to spend on. Okay, so I may want to do that, which means I have to do what? If I can't outsource it, I've just got to carry the can until we can. I've got to work smarter and work harder. I've got to be very vicious around that delusion and distraction time, those not urgent, not important times in particular, that just are gutting my day. Gutting my day.
The other point on that would be, let's say one sale is worth $20,000, but obviously in a month, that's actually a bad example, say $10,000 in 1 week, and then in a month that's all I make, because I just made one sale. But the question would then be, do you outsource? Do you sort of try and make it affordable? Because if each sale's worth $10,000, you can get more sales at some point.
If you could cash flow it, yeah. I mean, every individual is different. So what I'm trying to talk about is an overarching concept that we look at individual things. I feel like a financial planner. This is not individual advice. This is something, you know, you've all had those disclaimers seen them on TV. But as a concept, so if I was in cash flow crisis, I cannot afford to outsource it. I can't afford to delegate it because there's no one else to delegate it to. I've got to carry the can. It's not nice, it's not pretty, it's not ideal. But sometimes we just have to do what we have to do. Yeah? And it's what we do during those defining moments which will help to determine our success or failure within business. Now, we all have peaks and troughs. I was talking to somebody else about this here in the room just recently. We all have peaks and troughs, but how high and how long those peaks sustain and how short and shallow those troughs are, who determines that? Is it because of the change of government in the last 48 hours? I don't think Mr. Turnbull's going to affect me too much in the next whatever. Unless he could turn the Aussie dollar around and send it north again, of which I'd be very happy with my import business. For those of us who import at the moment, the Aussie dollar not so good. But I can't change it, can I? So I just have to suck it up and deal with it. So that's the point I'm trying to make. Oftentimes we just don't do it. You know, we spend that time to save money, and the time we can't get back again.
You also talk about that like in terms of personal expense. So, for example, you've got like a plumbing problem in your house, and it is in itself might take 3 or 4 hours. Or you can hire a plumber to come and do it for yourself, do it for you.
Yep.
And that 3 or 4 hours you could have spent working on the business instead of fixing your taps.
Spot on. And in fact, that was my epiphany. You know, family time is the most important time in the world for me. Who's here ever sent an email or something posted me saying family is greater than all things? It's a real simple equation. Right? A few of you have seen that. Right? So I did a stupid thing. I decided a number of years ago I was going to paint one of the kids' bedrooms. Now, I can see a few of you having a chuckle because I'm the worst tradesman known to mankind. And I went out and I bought a cheap brush, and I bought cheap paint, and I bought cheap masking tape. And I spent time painting a bedroom on a weekend when I could have been out playing with the kids. What happened with the cheap brush? Half it ended up inside the paint, not just on the handle. Yeah? What happened with the cheap masking tape? It bled everywhere underneath, so those nice clean lines that you see real tradespeople get, yeah, didn't actually occur. Which meant it cost me more money to then go and get someone else and pay them to do the job that I should have got them to do in the first place. But I was going to spend some money spend the time to save some money. Bad move? Yeah.
Well, the kids would have appreciated you putting effort in.
Oh no, they enjoyed laughing at me. They enjoyed ridiculing their father for... No, so I've learned something. I learned a very good lesson, and that was probably 10, 12 years ago. Stick to what I'm good at. Yeah. Well, then you've got to suck it up and put up with a crappy paint job if you've got me painting your house. So, this is where the balance, the individual thing has to come in. One of the things, we've invested in is I don't mow my own lawns. I don't do the gardens. I don't do any of that sort of stuff. I've got a bloke who whizzes in, whizzes out, does it all for $45. He leaves, he does a better job than me. Sorry? You get his number? And he's gone. He's in, he's out, and he's gone. What does that mean on a weekend? What used to take me 2 hours, he gets done in 20 minutes during the week. And what do I do with that 2 hours on the weekend? I can take the kids to breakfast. I have to spend Sunday morning mucking around on a mower, which I hated doing anyway. Do you see what I mean? So is that $22.50 an hour worthwhile? Yes or no? Right. Is it affordable at this stage of my life? At the moment, yes. So can I do it? Yes. Should I do it? Absolutely. So it's a nice little mix between the two. But it's when we should do something, we don't do that something. That's when there's a problem. So who would like to share, and we're not going to go table to table, on the top left-hand quadrant, the stuff that's not urgent, not important, that's sucking up your day? Kerry?
Emails.
Emails.
Some emails.
Facebook posts. Blimmin' Facebook's getting hammered. Zuckerberg, you evil man. Anybody else?
Now he's charging us for it.
Sorry? Now he's charging us for it. Smart man. Evil but smart. Anybody else? Talking to staff. Talking to staff.
About the weekend or something.
About stuff that's not important, yes. Yep. When's a good time to talk about the weekend? After hours. Theft of time is one of the biggest things, and often we steal from ourselves.
What about smoko breaks? As in,
Smoke a break, knock yourself out. That's your time, baby.
as in staff going out every half an hour and having a cigarette?
No, they're having smokos. They're not having smoko break. What's my thought on that, Lynn?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have a break
Yeah.
if it's your scheduled break.
Oh, okay.
That's your time. What you do on my time, that's my time. Anybody else want to throw something up? Come on, this is the most embarrassing one. This is the fun quadrant. I haven't heard any nasty little secrets here. Keeping up to date with the news, yes. Jace? TV. Anything else that's in that not urgent, not important, that's in business time? Sorry?
Socialising and lunching.
Socialising and lunching. Well, some of us use it as an important business tool. Actually, that's a good example. Who's here in a business network group? Most of us. Okay? How much time can you spend investing in relationships inside your business group? Lots of time? Yeah? Is it important? Is it urgent? And sometimes do we spend more time? We're spending time, we're deluding ourselves. So we've moved to the next quadrant, but I don't mind that. Right, we're deluding ourselves. When I first joined my very first business network group, formalised one, actually it was with Mark. I thought, this is awesome. I get to meet everybody all the time, and I was over-investing the time that I needed to. But could I justify to myself that I was getting to know everyone in my network group and everything else? Yes. What should I have done? Thought, okay, who can I offer the best value to? And in return, who can offer the best value to my business? They're the people most urgent, most important to speak to. Somebody that I can't help in any way, shape or form, and vice versa, and there are going to be people like that. They're people that I'm going to meet sometime when I've got spare time. Does that make sense? No, not just to get a number on the board. Okay, so let's move to the next one, which is the urgent but not important. This is the phone ringing. And you've got no idea because the phone's ringing. Is it a prospect or is it somebody trying to sell you a phone plan from the southern continent?
Check the number that comes up.
Well, in case it's silent. Who's got some stuff in there that sucks up their day that they'd like to share? That's the prerequisite. Manny.
I've got texts that ring us up and ask us questions sometimes that is important, but is urgent, but it's not important. That take up a lot of time.
Suck up a lot of time. So what are the sorts of tools that you could use that might help them?
Well, I know what I go into detail here, but yeah, they can have things a bit more. We need to report things a bit more than we have.
Yeah, and that's. And I'm not saying to pick on you, Manny, but it's a case of, what could you do? You could build up a database of FAQs. You could actually have identify those areas as areas of training. There are things that we can do about it to eliminate it.
Correct.
Right? So who here's got staff or team members? Yeah. How often do you get asked the same? Keep them up if you get asked the same blooming question by the same people multiple times.
Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day, right? There are opportunities, but we get so busy dealing with everything else that we don't eliminate the things that are sucking up that time. But if we took the time to do it and we didn't have Groundhog Day, how much time would you have free in your day to work on something that's truly productive? Now, seeing as those first two quadrants have been really hard for everyone, let's have a look at the third quadrant, which is the demand section of both urgent and important. Who wants to share some stuff in there? Great.
Customer issue resolution.
Yeah.
Customer has a problem, that's urgent and important.
Absolutely, because how much of a business do we have without our clients? We don't have a business. Well, you've got a joke because you've got a business name that no one cares about but you and your mother, but you actually don't have a business. There you go. Well, then you've just halved your fan club. But the reality is, you're right, looking after the people without whom we don't have a business, and that's our customers. What else? Who wants to throw some other stuff in the urgent and important box? Cash flow. Managing your cash flow. Chapter 2 in my book, my first book. Did I mention I've written a couple of books now? Chapter 2 is called Cash Flow is King. And in fact, I reckon I'm going to have to rename that title. It's king, it's country, it's everything. Because I've seen a lot of businesses that are very profitable with no cash flow still go broke. So working on cash flow. So that could be doing what? What sort of things?
Well, it could be following up your debtors or
Following up your aged debtors. Who enjoys that? Ringing up and reminding people that they owe you money. Besides Julie.
forecasting is really important as well.
Yeah, forecasting, knowing with what I know what's going out, this is what I need to have come in to break even and beyond.
But John, you can use it as a benefit to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yes, it is important.
Can be a great opportunity. So what else? Mr. Lamming, what's in your demand section?
Urgent client ones, yeah, mainly, predominantly.
Predominantly? Anybody else?
Meeting SLAs?
Yeah, meeting service level agreements. If you've made an agreement with someone, it's kind of important that if you make an agreement to keep it, we all in agreement there. It's called ethics, integrity, morals. Yeah, silly values. Silly idea. Wonderful concept. Anybody else? And?
Follow-up calls,
Follow-up calls.
clients.
Yeah. Because somebody may be too busy to give you a call back, but it doesn't mean that they're not interested in hearing from you again. So just to give them a call, hey, did you get my proposal? I was wondering if you had any questions. What can I do to help? How hard is that? And yet so often we don't do it, do we? Okay, so let's cover the next one, the zone time, the stuff that's not urgent but important, which we've all agreed already is the most important thing that we can do. Who'd like to throw some of those up, particularly for those who haven't spoken yet? Business planning, what a wonderful concept. Love the idea. Paul? Training. Yes. Who here spent years learning to do what they do well? Come on, all of us should have a hand up now. That was a loaded question. Right. But how much time do we spend getting better? How much time and money do we invest in getting better at what we do? There, Hayden?
Can I argue that, can I totally argue that the training is not in that quadrant, it's actually important and it's urgent for you and your staff, because if you start properly trained, that's going to automatically give you more time to do what you do best, and feel better at what you're doing, and you're more productive. So I would argue it's in the wrong one.
Only because it sounds self-serving. I couldn't agree with you more. However, if you don't have a business imperative, it can fall into either box. So I agree with you. Sorry.
I've got book writing, I've got exercise, meditation, and time with kids.
Yes. Sorry, we're going to say them again just so everyone can hear. Writing a book.
Writing my book, exercising, meditation, and time with my kids.
Awesome. And yet anybody who's listened to Cats in the Cradle from Cat Stevens, right, will realise when you have that moment that you don't get those times back with your kids. Sorry, who was it? Sorry, Harry Chapin. Sorry, yeah. Who was I mixing up with? I got the title of the song right? Yeah, good. I got halfway there.
I'm glad
I'll take that one. Sorry?
So I'm glad you didn't say ugly kid Joe.
No, we won't. No, that's a bad version. That's a bad version. So who here allocates their time to do the stuff that's not urgent but important? Yep. Let me give you a top tip, and Nick dripped it in there nice and early. It's a process that we call a default diary. Who uses a diary, by the way? And I don't care whether it's paper, electronic. Yeah, anybody? Don't know. If I ask a question, good girl. Okay, if you use a diary, if I was to ask you to show the person next to your diary, what would it have in there most? Client appointments, yep. What should go in there first, though? First and foremost would be the stuff that's not urgent but important. Right? So when I go through, I like to keep my diary at least 3 to 12 months in advance booked in. Right? So I know, where am I every Monday and Thursday morning, Melissa Jack?
You're at my gym training.
You like that, Nick? It's not yours, and it's hers. That's right. I'm there getting trained. That's a not negotiable. That's a not negotiable. Grant Jennings, where am I on Sunday morning? Having breakfast with the kids. Yep. If I do a course or I'm doing some training or I'm doing something in professional development, what goes in there? Goes in there first. Date night with the wife. I'm saying that because I'm sure my wife's going to watch this one day. Right? Date night, the most important night, obviously goes in first. Right? Stuff that we do, many of you know that I'm involved in Freemasonry. Right? Lodge and rehearsal and the stuff around that goes in first. They're what I call my not negotiables. If it's around my family and around the stuff that's important to me and my business planning time. Now, I put in specific time, working on marketing plan to 2016. We're going to talk about time boxing in a minute, in how to actually do that with a to-do list. It's not going to end up longer by the end of today than when it started. But all these sorts of things have to go in first. All of it. How about team meetings? Do they go in first or not? Yep. Absolutely they do. That's a not negotiable, because if I've got a team and they're not doing what I need them to do, what's happened? Chaos. But usually I hear, but I'm too busy to catch up with the team, so we'll catch up with them over a coffee during lunch once a month if I get a chance. And yet, if I'm not sitting down on a weekly basis, looking at what's happened before, what I'm doing now, and where I'm going, how can I expect them to come along the journey with me with the same excitement and vigour that I have? And my team aren't even here in Australia. And everyone I use in my team is either a subcontractor, which is here in Australia, or I outsource to my team. I've got 3 VAs in the Philippines. They are just as well informed as the team that I've got here. Why? Because I want them to be a part of the journey that I want to be on. Hayden.
Can I ask the group where you feel doing quotes for clients' ranks?
Yeah, that'd be the demand stuff. That'd be both urgent and important.
Well, no. But I'm talking about for the business owner. Where does quote rank? Jimmy, that's,
If a client came back to me and asked me, a prospective client, would I rank them ahead? Are you saying would I rank them ahead of what I have to do for an existing client, or just so I can get some clarity? Because it's a broad question. In my mind, if you ask me for some information about prospective doing business with me, that's urgent and important. If I've got an existing client who has an urgent need that is before yours, has an urgent need, it will happen before yours. Because I'd rather look after the people I've got rather than continue to look for the people that I haven't even got yet. So is that important? Yeah, because if I don't do any quotes, I don't get any proposal out there, I don't have a discussion. If I don't have a discussion, then we can't negotiate where things end up and then do business with them, which means I'm closing off the top of the sales funnel. I'm getting inquiries coming in, I'm doing nothing with it.
so I might give one a quote request today, but really only one of them is really a hot prospect.
There's a difference. So once you've identified and you've deselected those that aren't, so we're talking about specific information, we can talk about that another time, but specifically, going through deselecting people who are wasting your times, then that allows you then to focus on where it goes. I go through a very, very heavy selection of self-deselection when I'm talking to somebody about working with them in their business. Why? Because then when we do get to that pointy end of the discussion, they want to do business with me just as much as I want to do business with them. And when there's a disparity between the two, there's an issue. But that'll be a session for another day. Thank you for the inspiration on that one. We might talk about that in the next Sales Made Simple area. Who wants to talk about something else inside demand? Inside the not urgent but important?
Is working on the business important?
Absolutely. Nick, and in answer to that question, Nick, what did you say to me earlier? Speak up nice and loud for everyone. Everyone's gagging to listen to you soon.
Working on, so like the part that's important but not urgent, that's the real big projects, like that's when they're the big things that take you from being okay to awesome. But they demand a lot of time, they take a lot of concepts and thinking. You easily throw it on the back burner, but that's where all the really big decisions are made.
And it's usually because it's taken time, things have evolved, and you've grown through the process. So what you began with isn't necessarily what you finish with, but how magical is that journey when you come through the other end and realise that yesterday's extraordinary is now today's ordinary. What do you have to do? Then you've got to look for the next plateau, next peak, and start pushing towards that one. Great distinction, Nick. Now you know why I've asked these guys to come and talk. Now, one of the things I promised I was going to talk about today is time boxing. Who'd like to tell me what time... Does anybody know what time boxing is?
What examples?
Bill and Faye?
You just, for everything you do, you set a time you're going to do it, and you stick to that time. So if you want to give yourself an hour to do something, that's how long you're going to do it, and wherever you get to, after an hour, that's the end.
Spot on. Because if it's going to take me 20 hours to do a business plan, should I book out the next 20 hours to do my business plan? Quite probably not. Right? Yeah, you'd kind of go nuts. Pete, I'm sorry. Too many business plans. But they're there, right? So the reality is boxing your time. Who here has been in my office? This will raise a few questions. Who here has seen my calendar? Oh, quite a few of you have. What does it have?
Get the obvious stuff out of the way.
Sorry, Grant, you were going to say? No. Boxes of time. Boxes of time that are allocated for everything. Even if that time, one of the challenges Mel threw at me was to make sure I got up off my desk and go for a walk for 30 minutes a day. Now, I said, yeah, I could do that. It's easy. Did I do that? No. No, why? Because I didn't allocate time to it. Was it urgent for me? Yes. Is it important to me? Yes. But what didn't I do? I didn't put in place the disciplines that I needed to have to make sure that happened. So where is it inside my diary? It's in my diary. Specifically, when I go and get my hair cut from the lovely Georgia. It's just not a space in my calendar. I look at how long is it going to take me to drive there? How long is it going to take me to drive back? How long is this likely to take? And I box out that time.
Eat the cake.
Sorry?
Eat the cake.
Eat the cake. Yeah, by the way, Georgia makes the most beautiful cake that most of us don't eat, of course, when you get your hair cut. But the reality is, if I didn't do that, what would happen? What would we normally do? Most people would do what? Allocate maybe an hour for the haircut? Yeah? But did you allocate the time and travel there and back? No. So boxing out your time. And if you look at doing that, it's really, really cool. I'm a simple bloke. So I like to have things colour-coded. So when I look at my my day, I've purposely made what I call busy time. Anybody want to guess what busy time is? It's most certainly not urgent and important, or not urgent and important. I made it grey, an ugly grey. And there are times when I sit down, I look at my calendar and I go, whoa, there's a lot of grey in there. Right? So as simple as an allegory for me to remind me that that's a bit of a grey space that should I be actually doing that time. Makes me look at it and see what I can do to make the rest of the time more productive. Now, who does a daily to-do list? Excellent. Let me ask a better question. Who's going to start doing a daily to-do list? Excellent. Who here has to-do lists that end up longer at the end of the day than what they began with? Okay, so those of us that had pushing put our hands up again before, put our hands up again. What if I was able to show you a way that you could actually have your to-do list shorter than what you started the day with? Is there anybody who's be interested in that? Yes. Right. Well, that's determined by you. I don't control your disciplines, but it is discipline. It is discipline. This is not easy stuff. Right? When it was shown to me, I looked at it and I thought, talk to the hand. Way too constrictive for me. I'm a free spirit. It's going to stifle my creativity throughout the day. Anybody heard that sort of crap inside their head or come out of their mouths? Right? And I was one of them. Oh, no. What I do for a living requires me to be limber and flexible. Bollocks. It requires discipline. Even if some of that discipline is to make sure you do put time in there for yourself. So, when you two do... Yes, Pete?
Does that mean you switch off the phone, switch everything off and concentrate on exactly what you need to do for that time?
Yes. Yes. If I'm in a coaching call or I'm running a session like this, am I answering the phone? No. No way. Why not? Why not? Sorry? Well, they are now.
Because your focus is on this.
Sorry?
Your focus is on this.
My focus is on what's urgent and important, my right here, right now. And if that not urgent but important thing, my business planning or my marketing planning or self-training or development or whatever it might be, if I've allocated time for it, the urgency's now changed. That not urgent stuff is now urgent because I've allocated time for it. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So you can actually create a shift in your whole way of your own urgency in making sure these things happen. But, and it's great, as Bill said before, you allocate time. I allocate a specific amount of time to read emails. I've now got systems in place. And this is where the evolution of your business occurs, where the girls know that if they take a call, we've actually got blocked out space, when they can tell someone, John will call you back this afternoon between 3 and 4. And then they take the messages and they pop them into that time period.
Excuse me, John.
Yes.
What do you do when emergencies pop up? Like
Aha.
In my business, it's a bit hard to sort of allocate a week ahead.
Yep.
Because somebody is.
No, it's an excellent question.
Or, you know.
Yep, and emergencies do happen, true?
Yeah.
Right?
Anything. It could be a family emergency.
Could be a family emergency, could be a business emergency. Yep. If I change something in my diary, does it disappear from my diary? Or is it just simply moved to another time? it moves to another time. See, too often as business, when we're employees or we worked for someone else, we had someone else who would be on our back to keep us doing what we agreed to do, to be a part of that team. And we had a level of responsibility towards that person. So even if they weren't on our back, we just wanted to do the right thing by them. Unfortunately, as business owners, quite often we let things slide. We can just let ourselves off the hook too easily. So I've made a commitment that if something has to change from inside my diary, it doesn't get deleted, it just gets clicked and dragged to another spot. And that happens depending on the level of urgency and the level of importance.
And how does that work if you've got the next week booked up, you know what I mean?
Yep.
You've got no space.
Have I never, oh no, I've changed an appointment with you. Grant, how many times have I changed an appointment with you over the years? Yeah. Has the appointment disappeared?
I'm obviously not that.
Thanks, buddy. Right, but the reality is, does that appointment disappear? No, it shouldn't. Our time moves depending on what else has happened. Okay, so if somebody's got an urgent need that is more important than a scheduled meeting with somebody, then does it change the importance?
So it's sort of
No, but I have to make a judgment call based upon urgency.
it's like a triage, is it? You know,
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I feel like putting an ambulance horn on the top of my car and go and fix something. But that's what happens. And when you're in a business that does require that, and you might have that, you might have someone who has a catastrophic failure, and you've got a scheduled time to go and do some scheduled maintenance work with somebody. Both of them are important, but which one's more urgent? You've got to make a judgment call.
What if that's happening all the time though?
Now this is, no, that's a good distinction.
With us, like my customers that ring up and they've forgotten or things are done late.
Yep.
And for us, everything is urgent.
It's always urgent.
There's some jobs that we get, you know, a little bit more time to do and complete, but most of the time.
You need to make the decision, is it truly urgent and is it a situation that you've allowed?
If they want it by 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and if they don't get it, they're going to be unhappy, well then it's urgent to me.
Yep.
That's important for us to meet their deadline.
Yeah, sure. And if they're ridiculously poorly organised and that's happening on a regular occasion,
She sent the email 3 weeks ago and she said, oh, look, it's still sitting in my outbox. I need it tomorrow night.
have you seen that? Have you seen that?
that can happen. Hayden.
Have you seen that sign? Lack of planning on your
It's
part.
not a gigantic opportunity for these two guys to create a new product. If you expect service, you got to pay for it. I had BMW try and screw me down and this and that, and I said, guys, you want sort of service? If you want it, you got to pay for it. And they went away, and 6 weeks later they came back and said, yeah, we couldn't get it, we'll pay for it. So
That can happen.
You're answering your own question. This is an opportunity to create a new product.
Sometimes it can be.
Urgent service, but it will pay for it, double the price.
Now, when you've got something, and I guess this is where we're talking on a case-by-case basis, but a lot of times your business will be thrown out of kilter, and that was an excellent example though, Daniel, by people who couldn't organise a trip to the toilet.
Look,
Seriously.
I've now put in my calendar for next year to be speaking to them mid-August.
Correct. So you've put a system in place in case they fail. And sometimes that we have to do. You know, in a couple of months we're actually doing a whole new session called Getting Your Time Back, which is a more detailed time management session. And one of the great, you know, we talk about time vampires. And they're people that sometimes we allow to collect around us, who literally suck your time dry. And, oh, but they're my biggest customer. Are they actually costing you business? Are they costing you to do business with them? So it's a bit of a worry. So based upon the fact that we've all agreed, we all agreed, can we just agree on that, yeah? Yeah. Let's all stand up then because everyone's falling asleep. I want you to turn to the person on the other side of you that you didn't see before and give them a quick high five that we've all agreed to do daily to-do lists. So if we're going to do daily to-do lists, let's do a to-do list that actually makes a lot of sense. When's the best time to do your daily to-do list? Sorry, I've heard the night before. Night before. I agree with you. Too many people say to me the best time to do a to-do list is first thing in the morning. That's the best time to sit down and review your to-do list for the day. I need to finish today and look at what's on tomorrow. And then when I get up in the morning, what have I forgotten? Who has those 2 o'clock in the morning inspiration moments? Yeah, keep your hand up if you keep a notepad next to your bed to make sure you write it down. If you don't, do it, because it's awesome. You have those things and you go, oh, that's brilliant. I'll remember that in the morning. And then when you wake up, you go, there was something, and it was really cool. And I can't quite remember what it was. So a little habit, go to bed with a notepad and pen next to your bed. And if you wake up and have those moments, have the discipline to write it down, then go back to sleep. So if we're going to review what we're doing, if we're going to write our list for tomorrow, what's the first thing we would need to do?
Get a pen and paper for the next day.
Review what we have done today. So that's the first thing. What is it that I've actually done today? Who here's got my time management pads or, yeah, awesome. Right, so at the end of every day, don't look at me so worried, Rob, you just haven't got to that part of the process yet. Some of these people have been with me for years. Watch this space. So with that sort of situation, what have you done today? And do an overview. I call it a summary. So on the bottom of the page, it's got a summary. And a summary is not just the individual actions, but how do you feel about the day? You know, I feel like a one-legged duck. I was paddling like crazy and all I did was go around in circles. Good time to go and talk to Alison about mindset. Right, so how are you feeling about the day? Because sometimes we forget that we're emotional animals. Right? We look at the logical side of things, but how are you feeling about the day? Today was awesome. I got rid of the worst pain in the neck customer I've had for years. Today was brilliant. I won. Today was brilliant. I heard the best news I've heard for a long time. Right? How are you feeling about the day? Then start to look at the logical implications. What was it that you planned to do today that you didn't do? Does that make sense? Yeah? And then what am I planning to do tomorrow? Remember right back at the beginning I asked you when we looked at goals and priorities? The next question is what I'm doing taking me one step closer to my goals? Is it adding value? And the best way I can remember that is my very first part-time job. The sales manager was a hard man. And every time I walked into his office to ask him a question, he'd go, shh, and point at the wall behind his desk. And it had $1 million. What was that? That was the sales we were looking to achieve for the year. And he said, come in and see me anytime you like, as long as what we're going to talk about is going to get us closer to $1 million. Sounds almost like an Austin Powers movie, doesn't it? I should be doing this. But how often are we doing stuff because it's habit? It's not getting us closer to our goals. Have we planned out the steps in doing things? Right, who knows they've got so much to do and to improve their business, sometimes it feels a bit overwhelming. Right? So what do you have to do? You have to chunk it down. You've got to break it down into bite-sized pieces. You have to prioritise. What do I have to do? And what are the steps I have to take to get there? And you know what? Everything else just has to wait. Right? So don't get overwhelmed. Just focus on what you've got to focus on. And the rest of it, it's going to have to wait. So too often we end up putting far too much pressure. I talked about letting ourselves off the hook, but most of us are really good at kicking ourselves in the backside and not spending the time celebrating the wins and not looking at what I have to do right now. We're so worried about what we should, would, could do rather than what we need to do right now. Does that make sense? Cool. I also then like to break down these as priorities. I'm going to read these out to you because I wrote them better than I can repeat them, if that makes any sense. So when I look at a task, I look at prioritising those tasks. And a task is, it's very important. They need to be done. You can read it later. This is for me to read. And you can read it later. A task is very important. They need to be done as soon as possible, and there are negative consequences if I don't get them done. Notice that second part, that final part? Not only is it urgent and important, but there are negative consequences. So too often we get caught up in stuff which is urgent and important, but it's usually urgent and important for other people, not us. Because if it was important for us, there would be a negative consequence involved if we didn't do it. True?
Well, it could be. You could lose it.
Some of them you want to lose, Kerry.
Well, yeah.
Some of them you want to lose. A B task. A task that are very important. These are things that you really should do today, but aren't a matter of life and death. They may not have negative consequences if you don't get them done. And as a deadline approaches, a B task can become an A task. Is this making sense to everybody? Cool, we're almost halfway through there. C items are things that you'd like to get done, but there's no negative consequences if you don't do them. And no particular urgency. These are items that aren't time sensitive. Now, if I've just submitted my BAS, if I don't submit my BAS again tomorrow, does it matter? No, because it's not urgent yet, is it? If my BAS was due a week ago, it's still just as important as it was 3 months ago, but what is it now? Extraordinarily urgent. A D task. And this was the hardest one for me to swallow. So, you know, when you sit there and go, oh, I don't know how I would, could, should, not sure what to do, don't worry about it. I suffer from the same issues. D is for delegating. These are very low priority tasks that you can get off your to-do list by asking other people to do them. The goal here is to make the D tasks disappear from your list. All right? I love writing. Love it. So who do you reckon, when I made the decision that no one else could write my newsletters better than me? True. Just because I can do it doesn't mean I should do it. No. What do I do now? I review what's been written. I go, but that's time I don't have to do. An E task, and this is the one that requires the most amount of discipline and usually requires an external influence to give you a slap around the ear. It's called eliminate. These are tasks that aren't related to your passions or goals. They don't help you particularly. They're time wasters that take away the resources you could use for A, B, or C tasks. So if we know that a task can move A, B, C, or D, depending on your business needs, your financial situation, a whole host of different things, how often do I need to review those tasks? Every single day. Because stuff changes. But if you're really, really honest with yourself and you sat down and looked at what did you do, and ask yourself the one question, am I being as productive as I possibly can at every moment of the day? That if you're sitting on the shoulder of someone that you are paying an insane hourly rate to, you'd want to make sure that every second of their day was productive, wouldn't you? And yet we usually let ourselves and others off. We're just busy being busy. We're busy. It's a lot of noise. It's a lot of rubbish. What is it that's producing an outcome? What is it that's going to do that's going to help me progress my business forward? Does that make sense? Now, I've either astounded you or we're falling asleep. I'm hoping it's the former rather than the latter. So if you allocate those to-do lists and follow it up on a daily basis, if you're honest with yourself, how many things would fall from A, B's or C's down to D's and E's? Honestly, lots. Particularly the D. I used to do my own bookkeeping. And then I realised that a business owner that does their own bookkeeping has got a fall for a bookkeeper. You reckon I did a good job at it? Well, I thought I did. Did I do a good job at it? Probably not. Can someone else do it faster, easier and better than me? Yeah. Unless you're doing it, Faye, of course. No, I'm kidding. So the reality is, what is it that you can get rid of? And be really, really harsh with your time. Right? Why is it that some people can actually seem to get so much more done than others? It's only one thing. It's discipline. Knowing when to cut and when not to. Am I doing what I should be doing, or am I just doing something because I think it feels good? And you can spend a lot of time doing stuff that you feel good about, but it hasn't actually helped you progress where you're going. If we're not going forward, we're going where? Backwards. So that's how your list gets shorter, because you're starting to scrutinise it. And the closer you get to it and say, can I do it? Yes. Should I do it? Probably not. Who else should do it? Who's the would, could or should? Yeah. So I look at it now and I go, what are the things that I want to do in my business? Today, this is a good start. Sitting down with my clients one-to-one, running our profit and parish sessions and other bits and pieces. That's the stuff that I want to do. So anything else that's not doing that stuff, what do I need to do? Eliminate or delegate. Hard, isn't it? But you've got to make the priority first. Last but not least, I want you to start thinking about that list. And I want you to do something that when we're rating those priorities and we're rating those activities, because we can kid ourselves, because we can let ourselves off the hook so often, what's one of the most important things that we can do?
Third-party review.
Yeah. And that third-party review, accountability, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's what I do, but it's also, you've got internal supports as well. I know, I call them the unreasonable friend. Anybody ever heard that one? Yeah, the friend who won't let you get away with crap. I'm really lucky. I'm actually married to the most unreasonable friend that I could possibly find. The best thing I can ever do, if I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do something, is tell my wife. Because you reckon she's going to forget? No. Is she going to let me get away with any crap? No. Right? And that doesn't have to be a spouse. It could be a friend. It could be your coach. It could be a bunch of different people. Right? I've got a bunch of different people. I've got a business coach I've had for 5 years. He's brilliant. Brilliant. And I've got him for two reasons. One, every now and again he tosses me a nugget that I go, I've forgotten about that. Or yes, I didn't know that. That's awesome. Let's run ahead with that. And the other side of it is that the first thing I do when we catch up is he's got everything written down. He asks me, how have you gone? What have you done? Similar question I ask other people here in the room. The question, who's the best person to answer that? Me. But I've also got my father. I call him on a regular basis. Why? Because he's even worse than my wife. If I tell him she'll nag me, he'll just bag me and continue to do so. And I've got other mates that I can do it with, some of which are here in the room. So having multiple people to help us keep on track, it helps you create a community of support.
Surveys as well?
Yeah, ask your clients. Yeah, talk to the people you do business with. You know, what are the things we can do better?
How are we going?
Yeah. Right? But too often, we try and be heroes. We try and do everything ourselves. And we try and carry the can. Smart or not so smart? By the way, the answer is the latter. Not so smart. So find that internal and external support and make it work. Peter?
That's having the confidence of vocalising what you want to do.
Yes.
Without doing that, you're sort of keeping yourself in that safety factor of yourself.
Yeah.
So by
Because it's really easy. If I don't tell you, I don't have to worry about anybody saying, hey, Jono, you said you were gonna. Where's the gunner? You know, I sat there for 2 years planning our new podcasting channel. If anybody here listen to podcasts? Yeah, I know you're listening to them at the moment. So if you, we've got a new podcasting channel. It's called The Naked Business Coach. Go to iTunes, type in The Naked Business Coach. We've got lots and lots of free podcasts on there. 2 years I talked about it. And then a mate of mine that I've had for years and years and years said to me, so what's the caper? Been waiting for this podcast to come out. What have you done with it? And I went, Oh man, I've done heaps. I've written down all the content I'm going to be talking about. I've got about 200 points of content, and I've been working exactly. He goes, that's awesome. How much have you recorded? It's now live. So I can now turn around and say, this is what I've actually done with what I've done. The last thing I want you to leave you with is that you can take this information away, and we started today making a commitment to each other, publicly to each other, that we're going to take this away and actually use it. This is a very simple booklet. Don't try and read it all at once unless you want some going to bed 9 material. Just open it up and go through a page or two a day and look at how I can implement this in my business today, not just, is this interesting? And I would love to have any one of you, or every one of you, email me some examples of what you've done over the next 90 days. Or when you all come back again, with everyone else who obviously got caught in traffic, in December, when we have our next session, to come and tell me about what you've done. Because that's what makes what I do truly exciting. Because when you do something with it, you achieve greater things. And that's really awesome. Thank you for your time. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend the next 5 minutes having a bit of networking, because not everybody here in the room. We're going to have what we call speed dating, aka speed networking. I want you to get around for the next 5 minutes or so and meet people that you have not met before. And I want you to ask them 2 questions. Who are you and what do you do? And how can I help you? 5 minutes. Thanks for your time.